Hello, everybody. How are you doing today? I hope everyone is having a fun beginning of the weekend, I guess. I haven't done these in a while, so bear with me. I've done podcasts with my guests, but this is the first time I'm doing AMA in a while, actually. It's been at least a year and a half, I think. Alright, just gathering questions real quick, looking at what we have. So this time around, what I did is I asked on social media in the first place, just to have have some questions already prepared, and I'll read those first, and then whoever is, I guess there is a bunch of you guys here, uh, watching it live. So awesome. um, but yeah, whoever is online, you guys can ask questions as well. I'll try to get to them. But this time around, I want to do monthly QA basically. So every month, I'm thinking last week of the month would be where I would organize to have Art Cafe just with myself and you guys, and you know, let you ask questions, chat about stuff. We'll figure it out as it goes. But I think it's a good opportunity because I get questions from a lot of you, whether it's through Instagram or Twitter, Facebook, emails. And as much as I want to answer them all, I just literally run out of time. Because the reality is, I either answer questions, just stop my task and focus on answering. And I don't want to do like 5 minute offhand, like here you go, and it's just like done. Um, but instead, I want to actually focus and and answer them correctly. Like actually think about the question and answer them correctly. And I think the best way to do it is to do it in the bulk. So gather all the questions around and answer them all. So I think that's a better way of dealing with that. Um, do I look chubby? I'm gonna say wait. I don't know. It might be the lens. I don't know. I hear lenses add kilos. I'm still like 195. I think 195, but I'm pretty tall, so I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I just woke up, by the way, so maybe that's why. But anyways, let's see. Let's get it going. So, first question I got was from one of my Patreons. So, for those of you, I still obviously have Art Cafe Patreon. I do it just to have it, I guess. Or let's put it this way: if you guys feel like you want to contribute to the show, this is like a good way. The Patreon account is the one to go. I'll link it in the chat actually, because you can just contribute to the show however you like. And so I added this. I used to have it so you just sign up and like, oh, I like it, and that's it. Um, but because I sometimes miss questions, because just so many of them when I run a podcast or something, it's very hard to answer them all. I decided to make it so that if you are, contributing as well, then I'll make sure that you don't miss the question, and it'll be answered first as a perk, I think. But it does not change the way the show is going to be conducted. As I've said before, Art Cafe is free. It will always be free. Uh, I guess the only reason, or one of the main reasons I want to grow my Patreon is for removing ads and removing like basically any barrier of like, oh, I have to watch the ad before the show. I know it's annoying because when I watch YouTube videos, like it's annoying me. It's annoying the hell out of me. I try to minimize it as much as I can. I don't do like overlays and whatnot because it's pretty frustrating. But I'm putting time into it, and yeah, I just want to make sure that I have more and more time to do that because I love podcasting. So speaking of podcasting, next week I still have to organize. I think I already have an exact time, but next week we have Finian McManus on Art Cafe. So that's gonna be fun. Finian just, I think he just finished working with the Avatar crew, so he worked on the Avatar sequels. You guys should definitely check out his work. He's pretty awesome. But that's going to be next week. I guess I'm doing like a laundry list before starting questions. Anyways, okay, let's get going. So the first question is, let's read it. Working with the variety of projects, one usually uses only the most suitable applications for the certain project rather than the entire spectrum of apps from one's portfolio. Would choose 3-4 application tops to deliver ordered product, but the rest of the software remains untouched. So the question is how to speed up the entire process of getting back to daily routine of working on applications which were, let's say, neglected during the last couple of weeks or months. This is a good question. It's actually pretty funny because I was thinking about that, exactly about that. Recently, I even posted on Instagram that, I was posting one of the images from Ghost in the Shell. I was like looking through the work that I've done for the show. It's like, how the hell did I do that? Like, what happened there? How the hell did I do that? And so the thing about software in general is it's only a tool. You have to always think about it this way. Like, you have to think about the goal in which you're going. Like, don't think about software that will change the way you do the work or make it better or worse. Like, it can definitely make your work better, but it's only if you use it correctly. And so there's no reason to learn everything. There's just no reason to do that. Just learn stuff that you need specifically for that project at the very moment. Because the problem is, if you just focus on learning applications, it's just not gonna work well in the long term, because you'll be very proficient with how to use software, but not really proficient with how to be creative and how to find better ideas and how to execute them better, you know? I don't know. I'm a kind of person that likes learning a lot. So like for instance, recently I've picked up Resolve, and I've been having a blast with it. You know, I went last week to Big Bear with family. The weather was kind of interesting because it started snowing in May, which made it not so interesting for, you know, family activities, but it made it awesome for photography. Which, by the way, I have to thank my good friend Ash for sparking that interest again in me. I used to do landscape and whatever photography just for fun before, and then, you know, my camera gear just turned into basically I just gonna use it for textures. But now, you know, I kind of it kind of came back, and I'm having a real blast, you know, learning the craft. And I think it's important to learn it, but yeah, I I personally only learn stuff that I need at the very moment, and I think it's more important to focus on the way you deliver your ideas, not what software or hardware you're using for it. You know, it does not matter whether it was done rendered in Vray or Octane. Like, none of those things really matter for clients specifically. So that's out of the question. You know, like back in 2007, I think, when I was, because I've been working in this industry for a while, and so back in 2007, I remember any person that would use photography in their concept art, it would be just like, oh my god, like who are you? Why you're doing this? You know, like that's cheating. That's cheating. It's like, and I always like question that personally. But now, like, look, now we're in 2019. No one questions it. Like everyone is using photo bashing. It's a technique being taught by world professionals per se. You know. So yeah, um, focus on what your goal is really. Like that would be the best way to answer it. Like focus on what do you want to achieve, and then use software that you know is going to work for it, and only maintain the stuff that you know you're using all the time. Like if you're not using some pieces of software for like months and months on end, and you don't see any use of them, like there's no reason to keep up. Like if you're gonna need it, you'll refresh your memory pretty quick. I'm pretty sure. And software is getting easier and easier to learn. There's so much material out there. It took me about a day to fully understand Resolve. Um, you know, I think I've spent about a day and a half, maybe 2 days, catching up on how 3D code works, because I knew there was a film project that I was working on that would benefit wildly from it. So I did that. I've learned it, powered through 2 days of learning, and then used it for the show. Like there's no reason that you have to go back and keep up with it. So I would say keep, like, if you're thinking purely about spending time on software, just spend it on when you're working on something, I would say. And then if you have any lingering things, you can always find them out. And working on something means you're either working for clients or you're working for yourself as well. So second question was, what is your approach regarding learning new software apart from working 21 days in a row and stuff? I mean, what do you do to keep in mind, or what helps you to remember the most crucial features, the certain workflows, settings, and so on? So I guess I kind of like grazed on that in the previous question. Yeah, just be like, as long as you're goal oriented, you will only learn stuff that you really need to learn from that specific software. So I'm working on the personal film right now, and the way I'm looking at it is, as I'm breaking down the shots that need to be made, I look at what exactly needs to be made and how. Like I just give it a couple of minutes to think about, okay, this is what we're gonna do, and this is how we're gonna do it. And then I look at what software would be best for it, So for instance, there's a couple of shots, or actually not a couple of shots, there's like maybe like 2 or 3 shots that I know would vastly benefit from Houdini, right? So I know those shots can be done in 3ds Max or Cinema 4D or whatever. Like there's so many other options that I could use easily. But what makes Houdini powerful for it specifically is that you have a full control, and the stuff that I'm trying to learn to use it for is actually very easy to pick up, like super easy. You don't really need to spend like weeks to learn it. So, and that's what I would use it for, like same with, I use 3ds Max as my main 3D application, which by the way, I'm, still considering different options. I'm looking at Blender, still kind of learning it. I'm looking at Cinema 4D, all that stuff. But all the alternatives to 3ds Max for me are basically, is there anything, at least for now, because I know what works for me specifically, and I know I'm very efficient with it. can I get as efficient or way more efficient with the other software to a point where the amount of time I would need to spend to perfect it and learn it in a way that would actually make me efficient would be, basically wiped out by the performance I would get out of it. So I think that's the best way to look at it. All right, that was those two questions from Thomas Vagel. Let's see, that was Patreon. Let's go to Twitter. I'm collecting the questions you guys have on the chat as well, so don't worry. I'm looking at them as well. We'll get to as many as we can. All right, let's see. Dum. All right, question from @Castromo. That's Twitter. I have two. First, is there a reason you use 3ds Max physical over Vray camera? And then the second question was, is in your that's a mall demo from Learn Square Twitch a while ago, push for balance instead of focal point. Is this because it's more a set dressed concept rather than illustration? Should concept work have focal points? Two interesting questions. One, physical camera over V-Ray camera. I think 3ds Max physical camera works really well with V-Ray already, so there's no reason to use V-Ray camera. And I think V-Ray Next specifically references to physical camera as well. Plus, it has way more options. Plus, it works with other renderers. So if for whatever reason you decide to switch to Arnold or Octane, it works with Octane, I think. I know it works with Arnold. So if you just decide, like, you know what, I'm just going to switch to Arnold, then it just works. So you don't have to, make new cameras, match their position and whatnot. There's like shortcuts to do it pretty quick, but it's still a couple of steps of the things you need to do to make it happen. And the second question, I can't remember what I was doing with that concept, to be honest. I think it was more of like a location shot. So you can do questions that basically, or you can do my brain, where is it? You can do concepts where you have a focal point, or you're looking at the overall thing. Obviously having a focal point makes concepts more interesting because you're focusing on one thing. But if you're exploring, let's say if you're doing an illustration of or like a set design illustration, you want to kind of focus on everything and make sure that everything is explained. So that was a weird one, by the way, because painting when I'm talking is like over time becoming difficult. So what I'm thinking, like right now I have my concept open. I'm not really working on it because I'm reading questions and trying to answer them. And I've noticed that my brain works in a way where I like to focus on something and then like be fully focused on it. I just cannot share attention to many things all at once. So, and I don't have a producer on this show, so maybe that's not helpful either. So let's see, but yeah, I think that answers it. If generally speaking you want to have like focal point makes it more interesting, let's put it this way. And non-focal point concepts would be where you want to give as much information to 3D artists or animators and whatnot, level designers, because they don't care how beautiful the illustration is. They do care if they can read enough from those illustrations to actually model and do 3D models and build stuff with it. So, but the reality is, by the way, like right now, I would say if you're not learning 3D, you're doing it wrong. So definitely learn 3D. And what happens is like the better you get at 3D software, the the better your position in the market is, because you can hop the obstacles. Like, you don't, when you get hired to do concept and you only do 2D images, it's very difficult to, let's say you do a shot and then your art director asks you for a different angle. It's very difficult to do that, because like you have to start over. Versus if you done it, let's say 50% in 3D, it's 50% of work is already done, because all you have to do is switch the camera angle and re-render, which takes significantly less time than building the whole scene from scratch. So yeah. Anyways, next question from at Harold's Baumanis. With all the hours it takes to produce the work in a position that is effectively a self-imposed body cast. Hold on, let's see. Body cast. How do you avoid blood clotted spider vase? What the hell? What is this question? Oh, I see. Shot to shit, eyesight, bad back and wrists, and overall bad health. Any health tips or routines you recommend to artists? Thanks. I was like, what the hell is this question? But I get it. It's about health. That's funny. Yeah, you have to stay active, That's one of my regrets. I stopped doing jiu-jitsu. But I try to maintain at least certain level of activity. So 4 times a week I do kettlebell workouts, and I try to do bike just to stay active. Like you're sitting in the chair all the time. It just wears on you, and I know it. Like, and the funny part is that if you don't take a break, you're thinking like, oh, it's a waste of time to do anything, go to the gym and whatnot, because I could do work in the meantime. But the reality is, like, if you do that, you're gonna get in the trap of being in front of a computer all the time and just feeling worse and worse. And that's bad, because like your body affects your mind in such a significant way. Like, if you don't get enough sleep, your life is miserable, too. So it's very hard to focus on work, very hard to do any kind of work. So yeah. Stay healthy, work out if you can, do something like at least 3-4 times a week. Do something for like half an hour. It really, really helps, makes your mind way more clearer. I would say staying healthy, eating healthy, and sleeping. It's so important. Your productivity is way different. You get better ideas. And I was thinking about it too. Like we live in the era where software and hardware becomes so good that it takes away the hurdles of manual labor, basically. And so what starts to matter more and more is the ideas you have. And I can tell you for a fact, if I don't have enough sleep, I have no ideas. Like, my brain is dead. I just want to go to bed and sleep. And I had a week where, I think it was last week before going for my trip, I was wrapping up 2 major projects, and I was sleeping maybe 3-4 hours a day. And that was horrible, because like at the very end, I was so exhausted from the fact that I needed to push the pace, but my battery was just dead by then. And so that you reach that wall that you have to break, whether you like it or not, and it's not healthy. And what happens is, like, once you take a break, you feel shit, because all of a sudden, like, oh, I'm lazy, but that's a different subject too. But yeah, try to stay healthy. Definitely eat healthy. Like, if you eat bad, that's even worse. But just, I never had like back issues and wrist issues since I lost weight. I don't know if a lot of you guys know, but back in the days, I think back in 2010, I was like 270 pounds, maybe 265. And I really hurt my back. Like I just sprained it real hard, and went to a doctor, and doctor politely said, "You're fucking fat." Um, so I started running. I lost all that weight, and never had back issues since. Never. Um, it's just like if you stay healthy and work out enough. Like you don't have to be an athlete, you know. If you wanna, that's great, but you don't have to. As long as you're moving, just move. I'll be enough. Uh, at Robert Tipter, you've been studying photography along with Ash a while ago. Are there any methods, books, tutorials, or cinematic photography? Are you still practicing it? Yes, I do. I actually went back to spending ungodly amount of money and being regretful about it. No, actually, joking. Um, I got a new camera. I got some accessories, so that's with the goal to shoot more than I do. I actually was looking at what Ash is doing with it. Ash is a good friend. We talk all the time from morning till night almost. It's almost like we could call one another a spammer. Um, but one thing I've noticed that when you do photography, the way you look at everything else changes dramatically. So it changes the way you look at your work. It changes the way you look at composition. It makes you more interested about technicalities of photography, which makes you more understanding about lighting and composition and how lenses work and whatnot. It makes you more knowledgeable when you watch films to understand which films actually look good and which films are just garbage, you know? So I think I don't know. I don't have any books. I've never learned from books. It's such an odd concept for. I mean, I guess there are certain disciplines where learning from books makes sense, but the way I look at it is very simple. Um, I want to express my ideas, right? That's why I do photography. I want to express my ideas and capture the moment. I think a lot of photography is about capturing the right moment. You can go to an amazing location. If the weather is not right, if the moment is not right, if the time of day is not right, it's just going to be another photo. You can frame it, you can, recrop and add post processing, but it's not going to be great. Let's put it this way. It's just going to be good. It can be great. I guess if you have a ton of practice, you'll find the moment to make it great. But that's like you have to have practice. But there are moments where you're out there and something happens and you capture it, and that just becomes a shot, you know. And I think that's the best way to learn. And oftentimes you'll find a moment and you just like, oh fuck, where's my camera? I didn't take it with me, or I didn't format the card. You always find like a little thing that you're not ready with, and you can read books about it. You can watch tutorials, YouTube videos about people making those mistakes and telling you don't make those mistakes, but you will, whether you like it or not, you will, and that's fine because you learn. And I think just going out there and doing it is the best way to actually learn. And obviously, that goes without saying. You wanna understand the gear you have, right? So there's just a ton of information out there. You don't need to buy a book to learn how aperture and shutter speeds work, or what shutter speed should be used to make the the film you're making or the video you're shooting not look like a soap opera. Do I have any books? Actually, I do. Hold on. If I was to recommend any books, and it's not to learn photography, but they are photography related. Let's put this down. So the first one I have is the Stanley Kubrick's Archives, and it's a freaking awesome book. It's just basically a cinematography of his films, and you can watch his films and find a lot of information there just by watching and studying it. But it's always nice to have something that you can grab and just browse and get inspired. I think that's better than learning how to and tutorial of how to become a cinematic photographer. I don't know if that works. It'll tell you like the tutorial will tell you like, oh, just go widescreen and find the right lighting condition. Those are like things obviously you need to learn, but to me they're a no-brainer. There's no like magic sauce where it's like if you do this you'll be you'll be the best cinematographer out there. Yeah, I don't think that works that way. And the second book I really like, and that's I would say the only two photography books I have, or photography related. I'm just looking on my shelf. I don't have that many books, honestly. It's Beneath the Roses with Gregory Crutzen. There you go. I'll make sure the links are in the description later so you can check it out. Actually, if you go to my Kid account, kid.com, let's see, let me type it in. There you go. Like if you go there, I have the books, like the art books listed there, the ones that I really love and I would like never get rid of. So yeah, just go out there and practice. That would be the best. And yeah, I'm still practicing. I'm actually planning a next trip to do some more shooting. I went this weekend. I had a blast. Fucking, it was awesome. I went for relaxing trip with a nice weather in the mountains, and it just turned violent and shit like right away. It was snowing in May. I was like, this is awesome. So I got a little, I don't think I got cold. I got wet for sure. My gear got wet too. Yeah, it was awesome. All right, let's see. Let's go. At F2Fly1, do you recommend Learn Squared for absolute beginner in 3D, or should I learn more to an intermediate level and then jump into Learn Squared? Also, there are tons of programs in 3D: Houdini, ZBrush, Maya, Substance Design, Substance Painter, etc. Which ones do you recommend studying and why? A lot of courses on Learn Squared are actually really well explained, so like you can take it and understand how the software works, and keep up with it really well. Let me see which ones would be the best. I mean, 3D assets production is pretty straightforward. Production concept art with Jan Orschel. That class is pretty awesome. He teaches, I think he teaches Modo and 3D asset production with Mihailo. He actually goes through the whole process of how 3D generalists work. So that's a really good one. World building with Paul Chattisson. That one has 3D code, which is more of a sculpting. I mean, let me see if there's any that is like really advanced. I don't think we have like a really advanced course where you have to like know something in depth, because the way we do the classes is we make sure that there's enough information for you to start, even if you don't know anything. And so we try to cover as much of it as possible, but the reality is like we cannot cover everything. So, but the way, for instance, I learn is I watch a course, but then there's certain things that I want to learn additionally. Like, oh, there's this tool. Okay, there's this tool that does A, B, and C, but I want to do D, E, and F as well. And so I would just Google that. And there's a ton of material, like extracurricular research that I do, and that's the hard part, finding the good one, because there is a lot of free stuff. There's a lot of gumroads, but there's only a handful of them that are really good, and a vast majority are just like very misleading in my opinion. Um, but you know, you get for what you pay for. So that's another topic that I wanted to talk with Ash about, and I might actually do a podcast with him about that. We did a podcast about AI and how it's going to change the industry, and this is another topic, like how artists are selling themselves short. Um, so we definitely going to look into that on a separate podcast. Uh, will you be releasing your manga shader for purchase? Maybe one day, not now. I have a project that I'm working on with it, and I want to have it finished. I want to find everything that works with it and everything that doesn't. I don't like personally, and that's why I stopped doing Gumroads. I don't like regurgitating stuff to sell it. That's why I haven't done a class in a while. I'm actually working on the new class right now, and I started recording finally. So I'm doing lighting class specifically. But in order to do it correctly, I'm doing trying to do a proper research and prepare for it properly, and make sure that the material there is actually good. And it's not just showing technique, how I pick a software and with my knowledge of lighting steer it up and it works like magic. Like, you're not going to learn much from this. You're going to learn how to make stuff that I make, and that's not the goal. That's actually, I don't like that. That's why I stopped doing Gumroads, because you run out of ideas of what to teach very quick. And then so the only thing you do is like you pick something new and then you do it again and you teach, and it's like 60% of it is what you already said before, and then 40% is, something new, or maybe the ratio is more skewed. But I don't like that. Like, I feel, I don't know. I don't like that personally. I much rather do like a proper good class um, than regurgitate the same ideas. At least I think that way. Would I ever do environment design update, intro to environment design update? Yeah, I'm thinking about it. It's just, again, like, a lot of techniques in that course, I'm still using them on a daily basis. The only difference would be I'm using more of 3ds Max than Cinema 4D, and I use Vray instead of Octane, but the principles are the same. And that's just software, Everything else kind of stands in there. So so I can, like, hey, like, if that's what people want, hey, I can teach you software like that. But really, like, software is so easy to learn. Like, you can find material on it everywhere. So I don't know. I guess it's not for me. I rather teach, if I want to teach something, it has to be good. I rather teach that. I rather teach the stuff I know works. And if I learn something new, I want to really find out what's good about it before I teach it. Because, yeah, I don't know. It's just the way I think, I guess. How can product designer, and that's from at ABHDEO. I don't know how to read that, but I'll read it this way. How can a product designer get a concept design for films? Must you go to America? Learning curve from product design to concept design? Is product design knowledge, skills, materials, CAD, research, prototyping enough to get to your job type? Probably not enough, but it's an amazing skill set and base to have, because it's a huge chunk of what make things look correct. And also, knowing product design, you obviously understand how design works then. Because if you're designing a product, well, it depends, like, whether you're designing packaging or the product itself. So there's like two different skills. One is more of a practical understanding of design, and the other one is more of like a marketing understanding of design. But yeah, I think that gives you a good base, but I don't know, like the it just depends on which part of the industry you would want to get into, right? Because if you do a product design and all you do is learn how to break the boundaries of functionality and going into uncharted realms, and then making sure that the presentation looks awesome, then I don't think that would be a huge leap to take to actually be able to work in the industry, you know? But if you want to do like environment concepts, stuff like that, that's like a whole different deal. Um, it's like with anything, you just have to spend time and learn it, you know? And see if it is even for you. Because like everyone is different, and it might look awesome from the outside to learn to be an illustrator or concept artist, but in reality, once you do it on a daily basis, and you have to deal with the project that for first week's gonna be awesome, and then for months and months on end it's just gonna suck. Like, be prepared for that. So it's not all, roses when it comes to work. I've learned that about matte painting. When I was learning matte painting back in 2008, I've learned it pretty quick that it's not about beautiful landscape pictures of New Zealand for Lord of the Rings or anything like that. It's just like more of like, how can I make my image look so that you don't know it's actually painted, so it looks like I took a photo. That's really what it is 90% of the time. So, and a lot of it is like in 3D now as well. So yeah. And last question from Twitter. That's from Canvu. Dude, your Twitter handle is off the charts. KHANHVU453152128. Goddamn. How would you go about adding grime and imperfections to metal using Vray blend material? I would make a base of the material that would to be a base basically of what you already have, and then you add layers, and then you just use the let me open 3ds Max real quick. But you basically create a mask, and you can create different masks, right? It can be painted masks, so it just adds like those little imperfections, or you create like more complex shaders. The best way to learn it on like proper level, on like really good proper level, is to take Grant Warwick's mastering V-Ray class. He breaks it down so well. I spent $200 on his class, and that was probably one of the best investments I've made learning wise, I think. He explains it really well. 3ds Max taking forever to open. Haha. That's one of the things that they should fix finally. Oh, it crashed. Oh, perfect. I guess I'm not gonna check it, so. Alright, let's go to Facebook. Franco asks, where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years? And how Showtime's coming along? Showtime's coming along pretty well. I'm having a lot of fun with it. When I have time, I do it. You guys will see. It's gonna be fun. 3ds Max, lol. Yeah, exactly. That's one of the frustrating things about software. It just crashes. But what do I see myself in 5 or 10 years? I don't know. I've never looked that far in where my life's going to be. Like, I always do, like, I try to do as much as I can daydreaming. So I'll just sit down and sort of like visualize where I want to be like a year from now. But I've never thought about 5 to 10 years. Because I've learned that I like to do things that are interesting to me and pursue them, And those ideas come and go. And every year is different. So I could say like, 5 years from now, I started learning photography, right? 5 years from now, I want to be a professional photographer. But 5 years from now, we might have gear that, or the shift in the industry that's just gonna make it not a wise decision. Or 5 years from now, I might just have a different idea of what I want to do and who I want to be. So I never think that far. But that's me personally, and everyone else is different. I know some people that like to plan like a lot ahead, but it's not me. I plan like for upcoming months and for the ideas I want to work on, but I don't plan like 5 to 10 years. I guess I could say 5 to 10 years from now, I want to be healthy and better at the things that I do and happy about it, happy about where my life is going. Let's put it this way. But I don't feel like that if there is any specialization that I want to pursue and that's gonna make me what I want to be in like 5 to 10 years. There's this book that Ash have sent me. I'm gonna start reading it. I might do book reviews later on too. But the title is basically what I've been thinking about for a long time. It's called Range, Why Generalists Triumph in a Specialized World. And it's that quote from Ghost in the Shell. You over-specialize, you breed weakness, Let's close Twitter. All right. Not two more. There's way more questions. And I'm going to jump into the live questions as well. Let's go. Have you been consulted regarding a potato biosphere design for the Mars colonization effort? That potato thing. You know who came up with the potato thing? It was Alex Neonakis from Naughty Dog. And I just kept going with it. What do you think about artists giving away 3D models for free on sites like Thingiverse? Oh, I have to check it out. Free stuff? I'm up for it. I'm always up for free stuff because then I can use it and do fun stuff with it. But so Thingiverse, and then you have GrabCAD as well. I don't know. I think I've answered partially about that. Hold on, let me get a drink. Answered partially about that in one of my previous answers. I don't think artists are smart doing that. There's certain things like, yeah, it's cool to share, but what's the logic behind it, right? Like, are you doing it? Are you like, if you're sharing what you've built, the picture of it, that's a one thing. But sharing the whole model, it's like me if I would start posting PSD layers, right? Like, I don't know. I don't see lawyers giving free advice, proper free advice online. I don't see that happening. I don't see doctors doing surgeries for free. That's another topic. Like working for free and selling yourself short. That AI podcast made me thinking, like when I was preparing for it, it really made me thinking because like we are living in the world where the rate of change is so dramatic. I mean, the industry is so vastly different since I started in it, It used to be that the companies were super small. You would have like 20 people working on the game project. Then it blew up to like hundreds, if not like sometimes thousands of people working on the project. Maybe not thousands, but like hundreds of people working on one project, like the so-called next gen. And now it's in the reverse because software automates everything. So in the near future, the way I see it, based on the things I've read, based on where I see the industry is going, how it's been historically progressing past 10 years, is that all the manual label will be replaced by automation. All of it. Almost all of it. So the only thing that will matter is your creativity. Because I don't think that's going to be replaced pretty soon. I might be wrong, but let's assume not, right? Let's assume for a second that creativity is something, and like human level interactions is something that is not going to be replaced anytime soon, or not in our lifetime. Let's say let's just make that assumption. Then all you're left with is your ideas. That's the only thing you're left with. Your skills of how you use Photoshop and whatnot. That's not gonna matter in the future, because it's just gonna be more and more automated to a point where right now the barrier to entry is very low compared to where it was before. If you look at the best concept art from 2004 and you pair it with anything that is done today, like if you take, oh my god, he's a concept art god, 2004, and you compare it to an absolute average upload on ArtStation, you'd be like, that's a concept art god? Like, what? That's not right. So like the baseline of what's quality went just skyrocket so high. And an average person does better concepts than a professional would do like 10 years ago or 15 years ago. That's a huge progress in such a small amount of time. And it's not stopping. It's still going. Software gets easier to learn. It's automating a lot of stuff. You know, I remember times where if you wanted to render in Vray, you had to be a mathematician and learn how to calculate samples so that the render wouldn't take like 20 days. Now you have real-time rendering, like real-time rendering, whether it's through Eevee or Unreal Engine. And even ray tracing is so fast compared and so much better. So, and the reality is this: if you look at ArtStation and then tell me how much of what you see is original, like actually original, not regurgitated ideas of someone else, not kid bash models from Vitaly, not medieval army stuff from JAMA. Like, you have those outliers that produce the quality, amazing work, and original content, and then you have hundreds of copycats that just don't have their own ideas, maybe because they are learning. I was the same. I was learning that way as well. But if everyone was amazing at creativity, we would have a booming industry of amazing people. But we don't. There's only like a handful of really good guys out there, or girls, you know? There's just like, I mean, it's way more than it used to be, but it's not like every artist you stumble upon is amazing, right? You could argue that maybe 1% of them are, wow, that's awesome, that's creative, that's new, right? And then the rest of it is basically you know, the same stuff you've seen before. That's my point. So my issue with, and some of the questions I'm taking way more time than needed, but I think this is important. My issue with posting stuff for free so that people can take it and use it is that someone will take it and use it and make a lot of money doing that because they're smarter than you. And you could make money doing that too. I don't know if there's a fix for it. If people are, I mean, there's always going to be people that are posting stuff for free. I don't like to do it myself personally. I don't mind getting free stuff. Like, who doesn't? You don't see a Gap or H&M or any of like the clothing companies going into warehouse and dumping free clothes. Like, look what we made. Take it. Like they don't do that, you know, because they're a smart business in business. They it's like the labor you do in order to produce something matters. It's your time. You have a finite amount of time in this world. So, and I know like if everything was paid, then you know it would be harder to get anything. But like, then make it. You know, it will be a different value of it too. Anytime you create something and give it away for free or for extremely cheap, you're devaluing your own value, yourself. You're like devaluing the value of who you are and making it commodity. And art is slowly becoming commodity. It's not like an industry that you can make a good living. Like, it's horribly hard to make a good living being an artist unless you figure it out in a way where you have pretty cheap life and work a lot. So, I mean, don't get me wrong, you can make a lot of money as an artist, but you have to be smart in business to do it. If you're not smart in business and you're relying only on being awesome, that's not going to work out. What's the best advice you can give to artists about translating their skill into income? Don't give it away for free to begin with. And what are you going to learn next? I'm spending a lot of time in photography right now. Doing work, obviously, for clients. I want to learn filmmaking. I think that's the bigger goal I have right now. It's really exciting to me. It's a new thing. It's just like expanding the skill set. I don't get me wrong, I enjoy doing concept art still. I like to draw stuff, but I feel like I'm constantly evolving to learn something new, and I want, it just makes me, it's just fun. I love it. I love to do it that way. So any thoughts on ZBrush, ZModeler, viable for hard surface modeling, or it's too limited? I haven't done anything with ZModeler, honestly. I haven't used ZBrush that much, so it's hard for me to answer this. I'm gonna go more rapid fire. Does it bug you that you can never make something truly round in 3D? And does this prove that the Earth is flat? Yeah, probably. I mean, if you do CAD, it's technically perfectly round. I mean, it might not be displayed perfectly round, but I mean, who cares? It's like if you have a 4K TV and you buy 8K TV, like unless you're like really close to it, you're not gonna see a difference. So it's the same with roundness. Like, you can get it pretty round, and then it's just good enough. Do you agree that the biggest achievement for AI would be when it can UV map our 3D models? I think it's already on the way. I remember Grant was sending me a link to a software. I cannot find it right now, but there was a software that does a pretty awesome job. It was actually a software that takes CAD models and basically does like a Z remesher on it, but like super accurate. And with UVs. And a lot of software already does UVs for you. So for instance, if you take Marvelous Designer, it already has UVs. And they're awesome. Like, you don't have to really change much. You can optimize it for games, I guess, but you know. Ever considered adding an extra dimension and try to do 4D modeling? Would be next level. Think about it. Yeah, 4D, huh? I don't even know what 4D looks like. I don't even know if we're smart enough to visualize what 4D would be like. Well, 4D wouldn't that be animation? I guess. I don't know. I'm too stupid for this. OBJ or FBX, depends what you need. OBJ, if you just need 3D model export, OBJ is good enough. If you need like a whole scene transferred to someone else, FBX would be a better option. Mac or PC? That's a topic. Huh. I'm curious to see what Mac Pro, the new Mac Pro, is gonna be like. Because I think Mac OS, the software, is leaps and bounds better than Windows. It's just is. Windows frustrates the shit out of me sometimes. Like when it works well, and I go out of my way to make sure I have no updates that are not critical. Like if there's a critical, I guess, security update, you would do that. But anytime you do like an update to Windows, you can be almost guaranteed that your shit's gonna start falling apart real quick. So you might have a system that is built from like industry grade parts and it's made for high definition rendering, whatever have you add like any marketing jargon to it. The moment it updates, it just becomes fucking calculator from 1995. It crashes and blue screens all the time. Like what the hell? Like our engineer, like software engineers, are you guys testing shit you release? Like please. I don't know. I hate this all constant not hate, but it's an issue. You have, and I know it's freaking difficult. If you want to have innovation, you have to do that. Like you have to experiment and make things fail. But sometimes like the very simple stuff just doesn't work because of an update. And if you think about, you have operating system and then you have drivers from the hardware and then you have a software on top of it. Like those are three elements that if one of them is out of sync, everything falls apart. And so one thing I like about macOS is that the frequency of that is very limited. And the reason is, and people hate why you cannot upgrade your Mac and change components. That's why. Because they make one specific component, there's no variations to it, and so that the software and drivers are much easier to be tested on it and much easier to be, fixed. So there's way less issues when it comes to like the way things operate on Mac versus PC. So I'm curious to see what Mac Pro is going to be and if it has NVIDIA cards. Because let's just face it, NVIDIA just swooped the VFX and arts market in general. There's like almost no renderer that I work with that works with AMD cards. You cannot render on AMD with Vray. I don't think you can render on AMD with Octane. Or maybe you do. A lot of stuff was with NVIDIA. They make just better cards, at least right now. And they have way more support from software. So unless Mac changes and go with the NVIDIA direction, I don't think I'll be able to switch as much as I like it or not. But on the other hand, like with the real-time rendering, like Eevee and then Unreal Engine, that might be a different story. I feel like the need to have more hardware these days is less because how things already progressed, How do you build portfolio for VFX companies or for working in films? I only worked with VFX companies a few times, and it was not really that different for me specifically than working in games and films. It was more like doing illustrations specifically for very specific shots that have already been filmed. I don't know why would you want to go into VFX industry though. I would not. I mean, you can listen to my previous podcast with Scott Ross, who was the co-founder of Digital Domain, and his thoughts about where the VFX is going, and it's been going. Working in films is not really that different than working in games, I would say. There's small differences, but you learn them real quick in terms of like how things are produced. I think what matters is the quality of your work, really, and just focusing on that. And being creative, or like finding the ideas, the good ideas. Attila asked, that was Jonathan's asking, and the previous one was Juiced. It was a couple of questions. Attila is asking, how do you proceed when you already have the skill level to work for film? Um, you just post it and hope somebody somewhere will notice it. You start knocking on doors. What do you do? It never hurts to knock on doors. Something might happen out of that. I used to say, and I'm sticking to it. If if you're not getting calls, like if you're not getting calls to do work, then your work is not good enough. It's just as simple as that. Or you're like not posting it clear enough for people to see it. Um, a lot of work that I've been getting, like there's a point in which once you work with enough clients, you build connections. And like if you meet with people and are nice in general, you'll have enough connections to, like even with fellow artists, you'll have enough connections uh to get recommended eventually if your work is good, you know? But if it's not good, doesn't matter how good connections you have and where you post, it just has to be good. It has to be better, like objectively better than the vast majority of the stuff that's out there. And it just depends like what kind of work you want to do and with whom, you know? Because arguably there could be work for almost every artist. Not almost, but like at least half of them. On like a absolutely lowest level as well, where let's say you want to work for like a local print shop, you know, that could happen. But is that what you want? You know, if you want to work for like feature films or large game projects and whatnot, then you have to get noticed. And if you're knocking at the door and your work sucks, they're just gonna ignore you. The thing about the higher level, I don't know if higher level is the best way to put it, but larger corporations, let's put it this way, they're way too busy to reply if they don't see potential, because it's just wasted time for them. It's not like, oh, we want to be nice and reply to be nice. Like they don't care about that most of the time. So, because if they are doing that, then they're not making money otherwise. So they could, review portfolios that are better instead. How do you avoid stiffness when working with 3D characters? I don't know. I mean, it just depends what kind of character you do, I don't know on a technical level how you make sculpts or 3D models less stiff. I guess studying real people and seeing like those little imperfections in facial expressions and like knowing anatomy, I guess that would help. But it's just something that I don't do. So I don't know if I can answer it correctly. What elements of realism people often overlook? That's from Yasha. So those two questions are from Yasha. Or Jasha? Yasha. I think it's Yasha. What elements of realism people often overlook? I do a lot, I've noticed. I would say lighting is the biggest one. Lighting by far is the biggest one. It's very easy to make things look somewhat realistic, whether you're doing photo bashing or not, or 3D rendering. It's so much easier to get realism, but the lighting is something that you just need to learn from the foundation level. Like if you don't understand foundation, you can obviously make software to make good lighting. You can you can use HDRI to make lighting basically as realistic as you can. But once you start combining different objects that are not necessarily rendered, it's just gonna show. If you don't understand lighting, it's just gonna show. So, and it shows in a lot of work that's out there. Let's see. Would you think it's viable to rent a space to act as a physical workshop for students to bring their gear and learn individually from, let's say, Learn Squared or Schoolism, etc.? I see many people who look to study in the physical framework. However, the institutions available to them are inefficient and very costly. I don't know. You can try. I mean, it's a business question of a market that I don't know enough about. Like I know teaching is something that, or generally education is something that almost going to be there for a long time. Although, with the Neuralink from Musk and company, I mean, I don't think we're gonna see it in our lifetime, but once that, or maybe we will. Again, who knows? But if Neuralink was there, then there is no reason to learn anything anymore because you're just gonna learn instantly, and then it's just practice. I don't know. You have to try it. Calculate for yourself. I don't want to give you an advice and then make you regret it. That's a hard one because it's business related, and in order to give a good business advice on something, I need to know what the market is. I'm. I would say do it the way, if you want to do it, like if that's your goal and you really want to do it, then do it the way startup companies do stuff. Just bootleg as much as you can. Like not bootleg. Just put together a simple solution as you can imagine. So instead of renting massive space or going into like a 1 year office lease contract, find a space where you can invite a couple of people and it's not costing you too much, and see what it yields. That's probably better. Especially with physical space, like you have to remember where you're doing it as well. Physical space limits you to who can come into it. It's not like you can invite people from around the world. That's why we did Learn Squared online, to make it available for everyone. We could do a school that is local, but that would be only for LA. So if you're outside of LA, you're out of luck. And it's so much more difficult to deal with like the regular brick and mortar. So I don't know. Hope that makes sense. All right, let's read now YouTube questions. Hell yeah, we're blazing through it. I'm gonna read a few here, and then I'll have to wrap it up because I got work to do. So see, that's one of the reasons why I'm doing it offline. But I want to still do live stuff as well. I wanted to actually open the file to paint. And again, as I mentioned before, it's like as soon as I started like moving the cursor and everything, it's like, oh. So I might, for next one, I might just like, if I'm going to be doing personal work, just pre-record and play it. So that something's moving on the screen. That's probably a better idea. There was a DAE doing a super chat. Thanks a lot for that. I'll start with that then. Hey man, love the channel. I've learned a lot from you. What would your ideal practice schedule look like? Also, if you don't mind, can you say Deanne? Get back to work and practice. Okay, Dion, get back to work and practice. That's how you say it, huh? Dion, Dehan. Okay, there you go. Ideal practice schedule look like. So there's this saying about I guess practicing smart. I don't know how the exact saying goes about, but there's something like you can consider like I'm practicing and you feel good about it, and then you're actually practicing and then it sucks, but you learn. Learning should never be easy, I would say. You should always push it to where it feels uncomfortable, and that's where you're gonna find if you're doing the right thing or not. It's very hard to put it into a context when I don't know what exactly you're trying to learn or practice, because each discipline would have a different ideals about what's best thing to practice. I think more on the general level, the way to think about it is look at your goals. What do you want to achieve with them? And then see if what you're practicing is getting you closer or not to your goal, and if you can improve the rate at which you're getting closer to your goal. And I think that would be a more healthy way of looking at what you're practicing, you know? Because if you're reaching the goal quicker because you started learning something and practicing enough, then you will know you're doing the right thing. And then obviously looking at the material that is out there and making sure that whoever you're learning from is actually teaching you the right stuff. Because okay, so I have this running joke with Ash about becoming a vlogger. Um, you know, because if you go on YouTube and you try to learn something about photography or filmmaking, 99% of it is vloggers. It's just, and it all looks the same. All of it. It looks the same. There's some outliers that do it really well, but like vast majority of it's like, it's like gear review. Like only gear review. Like I don't have anything against gear review because it's awesome. I learn a lot out of it, whether I want to purchase something or not. But if all you do is, I guess if you all you do is that, it's just your business. But I don't, it's really hard to learn something out of it. So we have this ongoing thing that about like, if one of us do something stupid, like, oh, you're a vlogger, not the filmmaker, you're a vlogger. It's like a funny insult almost. But the idea is that, let's say you want to learn how to change, like how to set up your camera so that you have a proper picture profile for, let's say, shooting film in darkness. Let's just put that as a topic, right? So you have like a low light environment. You want to shoot film and you want to avoid as much noise as possible. There's like hundreds of videos that will teach you how to do that, but almost all of them start with the person jumping and doing silly shit in front of a camera to be funny for like 5 minutes straight, which is like, if you watch it once, it's fine. If you watch it on every video, it's like, holy hell, dude. Like, that's annoying. But then like everyone does it. And then so like all you have to do is like almost on every video, you have to scrub through the video to the point you want to learn from. And it's really annoying. And it's really hard to find the right information. And I've noticed a lot of people just regurgitate the same information that they heard from somewhere without researching. That's why I like this ongoing joke of vlogger, because a lot of that material is like, there's few people that will explain the material like really well. I have some respectable channels that I follow that do it really well. They do like a ton of research, make sure that they're talking about the stuff that makes sense. They're not giving you any misinformation of how things work. And then there's a bunch of channels that will just do, oh, like, I've heard this and this is how you do it. I don't know how to explain it, but it's best. And let me try those ideas. They work for me. I'm sure they're going to work for you. Buy my lots. It's like, okay, dude, but do you really know how it works? So it comes down with pretty much everything out there. It's the same story, whether it's like concept painting, learning 3D. You can learn how to model, but someone might give you a wrong idea how to set up your models. They just might not work for what you specifically need, and it's really hard to find that information. It's free, so but you have to spend time, so it's technically not, because your time is worth something. So yeah, like you have to find a right person to learn from as well, someone who actually knows the topic. And it's very hard because people that know the topic really well are usually really good at it, and people that are really good at it spend a lot of time doing that instead of explaining how they do stuff. So that's why it's really hard, to find amazing artists to be also amazing teachers, because it's just like it's very difficult to combine those two. It happens, but it's very rare. Okay, let's see what are the other questions here. I'll read a few and then wrap it up. I hope I'm not boring, by the way. I hope this form is good. I mean, if you have any comments on the AMA itself, I would appreciate them. Like, leave them in the comments under the video. Actually, it's gonna be very easy for me to find them. Man, I'm looking at the camera. I do look fat. Fuck, what the hell? It's a bad angle. I'll blame it on that. Someone asked if I ate breakfast. No, I don't eat breakfasts, by the way. I do intermittent fasting. Alright, let's start here. Will Vitaly ever teach a class on Learn Squared? Are you just keeping the best for yourself? Vitaly is a good friend, and we talk every now and then. I mean, he's not in LA anymore, or like LA area. He's extremely busy. He's doing his video game. We'll see. You never know. You never know what's gonna happen. The thing about Learn Squared is, I mean, we try our best to do the classes that are awesome, you know? That's the stuff that I would personally want to learn. And so, like, in one way, being a co-owner of the platform, it's kind of awesome because I have access to all that material to learn it for free from, like, the best in the industry, or one of the best in the industry. So we always, like, want to have that threshold of, like, something we believe that is quality and you will learn from it. Now, some instructors we have are way better teachers than another, but that's something we cannot control. But yeah, but again, like, I would love to get Vitaly, obviously. We talked about it before. I mean, I'm not gonna spoil, like, a personal information here or anything, but you never know. Like, it may happen. Who knows? I don't want to do any promises, obviously, because it just all depends on the time he has. Like, remember, a lot of artists, unless you're, like, obsessed about being a teacher, or, like, you really like teaching, then getting someone to teach is really difficult, because it's a completely new craft. You have to learn how to teach. And I think we do a pretty good job. A lot of teachers we have on the platform are first-time teachers. They've never taught anywhere else before. So I think we're doing a pretty decent job when it comes to, pulling out that aspect of that the craft of teaching from someone who's never done it before. Will you invite... Okay, let's see. I'm reading a question while I'm answering one. What the hell? But yeah. I hope that answers it. Hi, what do you recommend for an artist with a little or non-portfolio? Start with own projects or start with a fan art? Thanks. Fan art, I mean, I have a perfect answer for this, and I answered this before, and a lot of people I spoke with on podcasts would said the same thing. Do the work you love doing, and the reason is, and show only the work. With a twist here, like with a caveat, but do the work you love doing, because you're gonna get hired for it, and once you get hired for something you love, you're gonna hate it. So you have to love it enough so that you're not going to steer away because you're hating it a lot. Let's put it this way. Because it's just like every project, it starts awesome. It's wonderful. And there's always a breaking point in which, like, oh my God, like, I'm doing the same shit over and over again. Some people like that. Others don't. But like, if you're a kind of person that likes repetitiveness, and there are people that have that trait, then it's awesome. It's easier. But if you like to do different things and be inspired and do different ideas all the time, then you're gonna hate it. And so if you're gonna do something as a fan service but you're not really into it, and then you're gonna get hired for it, you're gonna hate your job. So, or if your goal to get hired, I mean, it's pretty obvious that the fun art is easier to get noticed, but it's not creative. So there's like it's like a game you play, being creative and original enough versus, and it's just different markets too, you know. Some studios and some clients, they just want to do cool looking stuff that resonates with people. Others want to do more original work. So what is the usual environment design process in the industry? Just the concept artist part. Is 3D underlays and texturing really important to learn for concept artists? In short, yes, do it. Learn 3D. Learn foundation, learn the lighting, and learn 3D. Like you want to know lighting, obviously, and the foundation, but you want to learn 3D for sure. For sure. It's not even question if, it's if you need to learn. It's like, no, like learn now. Will you invite Andrew Kramer on the podcast? That would be a fun one. I agree, and I need to reach out to him and see if he would be interested. That'll be fun. 100%. How did you and Ash meet? We met through his podcast, actually. The Collective podcast. And like the first one, we started talking before the podcast, and we did the podcast, and we kept talking after it. It's just like, in a way, we're kind of similar as human beings, and we were just jiving together and became like really close friends. So will you reconsider pricing for Learn Squared courses? Because I want to get one particular course, but not really interested in others. Yeah, pricing is an interesting topic. Obviously, for those who don't know, we changed the pricing system last year. There's a tons of opportunities that we want to make where it comes to different kinds of sales and bundling. One of the reasons, or there's many reasons why we did that. Most of them are just purely business related. Like, we want to make sure that we're having a platform that is not only sustaining itself. We made a platform. So far we made a platform that is good for instructors. We want to always make sure that the instructors we have feel awesome about what they do. But yeah, it's just like at a certain point you have to think about business as well. So that was one of the reasons. But we do gonna have sales. We might be dropping down prices for the older courses as well, which makes a lot of sense to me personally. What's with your new post on Instagram? Yeah, what about it? I don't get it. What's my new post on Instagram? I want to look it up. I don't know. Yeah, what about it? I guess, what about it? Let's see. What else? What would you recommend for artists with zero experience and zero works in the place they live? Where do you search for works online? I mean, ArtStation is a pretty good hub to do that, you know? Post your work everywhere. Like, you don't need to live where the work is. A lot of work is being done offline these days, and it's going that direction for sure. So it's not like a requirement, oh, I want to be in films, therefore I need to be in LA. That's not true. Film is moving around a lot. So it's coming back to the idea of, is your work good enough? Like, once you get a certain level of work, of quality of the work you do, it's becomes much easier to get hired. It's just as simple as that. And there's like hundreds of layers of how to get there, and if you can get there at all. But that's like a topic for completely different podcast, I think. But the only thing I would just add, the experience matters, but less so than before, because what matters is the quality of the work you do the most. That's like the major factor of whether you're gonna get hired or not. Whether you worked on like major films before, I don't think that's that's being looked at as much anymore. You know, if you next question, if your work is good and you just graduated and you don't have a lot of clients yet, how would you go about looking for freelance work? So again, partially going back, it's similar. If you're not getting calls, that means you're not exposing your work enough, or you're just not good enough. Uh, Being good is very objective. Like, you have to realistically compare yourself to the best in the industry, because the reality is, like, I've heard this quote. It's from Jordan Peterson, actually, and he said it on that panel that I've sent to Ash, about creative people. The winners take all, and that's true. The people who are on the very top get the most recognition and get the most the most jobs. Let's put it this way: the most offers. Once you climb up the ladder of quality and notoriety, you will quality the most. I would say, not notoriety, but the quality the most. You reach a point where you don't have to look for work anymore. It's very hard, and I want to be careful how I answer this, because I used to answer this without thinking, or just being informed from one angle to another, you know? I feel that the more I know about how we are constructed as humans, you know, like what's in our DNA, how different we are to one another, like how similar we are to one another, and how different we are. And then on top of that, how we live our lives and how we were brought up as kids, you know, because nurturing has such an important aspect to who we are these days. And then what we are obsessing about. It's, for me, saying that, hey, work hard and you will get there would be very unreasonable thing to say after all. Because you might be working hard, you might have all the ingredients you think that would get you there, but you're not gonna get there. And when I was starting in this industry, it was a little easier to start working, because there was not that many artists out there. It was really difficult to actually share work and get found out about, you know. So it was the barrier of entry was easier, but on the other hand, learning to become on a certain level that is acceptable was much more difficult as well. Now, learning how the software works and all that stuff almost became a commodity. I think anyone who's considering about going to art school, like university, especially in US, especially in the United States, is, don't do that. Don't fucking take hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt. You're gonna regret it. You're gonna learn nothing most of the time. I don't think there's any reputable school out there that will teach you anything. For that money, you can buy all of the freaking tutorials that are out there, all of the classes, get a awesome computer, decent used car, and pay rent for a couple of months. And like, just burrow yourself and learn it. Like, you're gonna be way more effective, and you're actually gonna have something, you know? I don't know. It baffles me. Like, there's again, like, this could be another topic, and I've kind of discussed it already. But paying hundreds of thousands I have friends that I work with that still pay student debt, and and some of them told me, like, I wish I knew before, because like an average person in video games will earn about $80,000. And you have to be on location where the studio is that pays you that money, and it's Like if it's LA, 80,000 is, dude, that's a low salary. That's a low salary. You're not gonna have a good life for 80,000 in LA. And I know it's a relative. You can tell me that there's people that live for less than 30, and they need social security, all that stuff. I get it. I get it. We're only talking relatively to this industry and the amount of money and effort you're putting into it. I mean, we could argue that living in Middle East or anywhere that you have war is even worse, right? But I mean, it's getting us nowhere. That argument is getting us nowhere. So I don't want to have it. But yeah, I think that answers the question. Congratulations on graduating. I guess I don't. I'll be honest with you. It does not matter whether you graduated or not. In this industry, no one cares about it. But I mean, if you had a great time and you've learned something, that all it matters for now. Now, what matters more is like how you take it and go forward. Um, and there's always like this debacle of whether going freelance or going into a full-time job. Again, I think it's a very personal choice. Being in the studio environment will let you get more connections with people. That's always a plus. Being able to attend workshops does the same thing. But obviously, like, when I was at Naughty Dog, and I worked in the studio environment for most of my life. And I think like the fact that I had an opportunity to spend, I think, more than 4 years, maybe 5 years at Naughty Dog. There's two things that I got out of this. One, I worked with Bruce Straley, and I've learned completely different angle on how to work as an artist. And that was awesome. I think that was one of the major experiences that I had. Two, I got to meet a lot of good friends, a lot of awesome people. So, Aaron Lamonic and A. Tanzana, Nick Jindra, Alex Neonakis, Shadi, John Sweeney, all of those guys. I know them since I met them at Naughty Dog, and we had a ton of like goofy stuff going on. They're good friends, and those are the people that I came to work for, basically. Because eventually every project gets boring at some point, But once you work with like awesome people, that's what makes it worth, And then the connections you have out of it, the recommendation, like cross recommendations from clients, I know those people really well. I know I could trust them. So if I have work from client, and I cannot take it, I'll send it to them, because I know they'll, like, if they have time and they take it, they'll absolutely crush it, So having that helps. Obviously, having like a connection, having friends that can connect you with someone else, that always helps. But then freelance just gives you, you're on your own schedule. It gives you more flexibility. You can move, you can live cheap. Like there's just two different realms. I did a podcast a while back about freelancing and full time. If you go through the archive of Art Cafe, you'll probably find it. Some of the topics, though, we talk about might be already outdated, but I think it's a good listen. Let's see. I'll read a few more and then wrap it up. It's just too many questions, guys. Okay, let's see. Let's read this one. Should portfolios showcase more finished full illustrations or... Jesus Christ. More finished illustrations or early stage design focused work? It depends. depends what you wanna get out of this. Like if you wanna be in the, let's say, video games industry, you wanna show a couple of like really full flashed illustrations that show that you can get to like a certain level of quality when it comes to like the illustration itself. Um, but also having sketches helps, especially on like a more, like if you're starting, if you're like well established artist that you've done a lot of work already and you have, body of work to prove it, then people will know that you're experienced enough to do the work. But if you're starting, it's always good to show, sketches and how you got to that point. Not necessarily like shitty looking work in progress. I don't think that's helpful ever. But like showing like a sketch phase where you sketched your ideas, that is always a good idea. I want to get into digital photography, but every year phone cameras get better. Where is a good starting point to look for in digital cameras? Any rules of thumb? Uh, yeah, that's an interesting one because indeed, camera like the phone cameras are so good already. Like the iPhone camera is like 10 times better than my first DSLR. That's crazy. Here's the difference, and I was thinking like the same way. Like you can get a crisp, nice photos from your phone, whatever. Um, but there's something different about the craft of owning like an actual camera and using, whether using it for film or photography, that the fact that you can change lenses, like I'm pretty sure phones will eventually get there and you will be able to get either interchangeable lenses or the lens technology will somehow magically get so freaking awesome that it will allow you to change the focal lengths. I don't know. I'm not an engineer, so I don't know if it's technically possible because if you look at the lenses themselves, they get better and better over time. But if you buy a lens now, you'll use it for next 20 years easily. People have lenses that were produced in 1995 and they're excellent lenses. And like the updated versions that come out have just ever so slightly better sharpness and maybe some things about autofocus, right? But the vast majority of the lenses that are on the market are pretty old. So if you compare it to like a standard of how you build a PC, if you would build a PC in 2004 and you would want to render like heavy animation on it right now, you'd be like, holy fuck, like I cannot do it. But if you would buy a lens in 2004 and use it from 2004 and use it on your camera body, it would be just works. It's awesome. It's exactly what I wanted. Doesn't matter it was produced 20 years ago. So the lenses are the most important part. The body, the camera bodies change constantly. I think mirrorless is the way to go right now. DSLRs are like way too heavy. Mirrorless are already at the point where they're just way better than the vast majority of the DSLRs. And then just the budget, the budget is the hard one because that's an expensive thing to get into. Like getting a phone is like a phone camera is just so much cheaper. I mean, you can do a lot with the phone, I guess. I would say if you really want to get into digital photography, and that depends on your budget, but allocate vast majority of your budget into a lens. And I would say don't get fooled by jumping into the idea of I need to own every lenses. Zoom lenses are already great these days. So I would go with the zoom that covers a good amount, and then get like a body that's not too old that will allow you to be versatile enough. And you can go like you can go crazy from there. That's the point. You can go bankrupt if you wanna. There are lenses that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars if you would want to buy them. but you would never, because why would you want to do that? And like, if you're not sure what length you like the most, just rent a few for a day and go out and shoot and see what works best for you. Like, which one you've used the most. That'll be a rule of thumb to go with, you know. Like on my last trip, I took only two lenses. I took all of them, or like all of them, thinking about, let me see which of them I'm gonna use. But I literally had only two lenses that I used: 24-70 and 7200, and I would say 75% of everything I shot was on the 70-200, because that's just my favorite length. For someone else, it could be wider. You know, who cares? It doesn't matter what's the length. It matters like what you have the most fun with and you feel the most creative with. So, okay, let's read one more. I'm just like scrolling violently and trying to find a question that I'm gonna read out of the blue. There's a lot of discussions. All right, let's see this one. If becoming an artist is a career that's not worth to pursue, then what will you gonna do if your kids want to become an artist? Here's the thing. If you want to make money, if you want to be rich, don't I don't know. It's a hard thing to say. Like, if you want to get rich, do this. Like, I'm not rich by any stretch of imagination, so it would be bad for me to say like, this is what you have to do. And that's one of the reasons why I don't like the get rich books. There's one thing that they get right. It's about being responsible for your money. There's one thing that they get wrong, that you're supposed to be excited about it. And unless you have to be born that way, like you have to be born that way. Like, I don't know what else to tell you. Like, you have to be born in a way where making money is really exciting to you, as of the idea of making money, and then also be raised in an environment that tells you that the idea of becoming rich and making money is the right thing to do. And then if you're on a creative spectrum and you want to just create and do awesome stuff, it's a lottery. What are you like? There's a bunch of creative people, and I consider entrepreneurs creative, that made it, but on every single startup that was successful, there's 99.99% of the ones that failed. And so, like, if you want to become an artist, the thing about kids is this. The way I look at it is this. I have a kid, obviously. And that's not only kids, that's everyone. If you're obsessed, absolutely obsessed about something, you're going to be miserable if you don't do it, right? So you might as well just do it. But you have to realize that it's going to take a sacrifice to actually get to a point where you can consider yourself successful. Being an artist, you can make money. Like, don't get me wrong. You can make money. You can, like, there's a reason why there's so many artists, you know? I mean, films and video games and product design, illustrations for books, like, someone is doing that. Someone's getting paid for it. Here's the catch. When I was young, and I was doing, drawing when I was a kid, a teenager. I lived in Poland back then. That was like shortly after, 10 years after the Berlin Wall went down and the communism ended, and Poland has had like a first real elections in forever. I just didn't know better, so I would make illustrations and look at the, like, I would play role playing games like Warhammer and AD&D and all those games. I would get those dungeon master books, and I would look at the art. I was like, oh, it's awesome, and I would read those magazines, like the fantasy magazines and whatnot. And I would look at the illustrations in there and I was like, oh shit, like that's awesome. I can send work and they're going to display the work. That's awesome. But I never thought that anyone's making money doing that. I was like, oh, cool. They are like posting pictures. That's awesome. But once I've learned, like, okay, like actually people are making money doing that. Like that's an actual work. And but here's the thing, like with anything that is creative, whether it's being an artist, musician, even like being an athlete, actor, you know, an orthodox kind of job, or being a programmer, like there's always a competition. So you always have to think about that. And it's not a commodity based market, meaning it's very difficult to find job that pays your bills, because there's just not that many. And the competition is pretty stern, I would say. So you have to pull all your life into it. And the older you get, especially once you get the family, is very difficult. It's very difficult. But it's all about what's the amount of responsibility you want to take in your day, and then apply it to your life. You know, because if you're sitting and playing video games half your day, or you know, scrolling through Facebook, and you consider that your day, then you know that's the time you could spend perfecting your craft and eventually getting there. But it's like with everything in life, it's a gamble. You never know what's the outcome is going to be, and you can always, you know, hope for best, but you have to also be realistic about where is your ability letting you towards, you know. Because if you've spent 20 years pursuing the idea of being an artist and you got nowhere, like the last thing you want to hear is like, keep practicing more. Like that's not a helpful advice. So you have to do something, either look objectively, or have someone look objectively of what's your body of work and why you're stuck, and change it, or that's just maybe not for you. That's just maybe genetically not for you. Maybe you can grow and become better at something else. So that's really difficult, you know. I'm not a scientist, so obviously, you know, I don't know all the ins and outs of how we develop and how human brain works and whatnot. But I think I've read enough to have a little understanding and opinion about it, you know. And again, this is just my opinion. Hope it's helpful. I really hope it is. It's really interesting. Like past year, 2 years, like ever since I had a child, actually, the way I look at things changed completely. It's way different. It made me think about the books I read completely differently as well, and made sort of like myself, the way I look at the world, to expand more and learn more on the general level than the specialized level, let's put it this way, so that I have a better formed opinion. Because I think it's important, for a very simple reason, is that the rate of change we have in the industry is dramatic. So what works now might not work 5 years from now. So you always want to be open-minded. So, all right, one more, and then we're done. Or would you say art is a winner-take-all market? Not necessarily winner-take-all, but there is a handful of people that it's like, there was this statistic about music on Spotify that 80% of plays belong to like only like 10 artists or like 20 artists, and there's like millions of them. And it's the same with art. Like I don't. Again, I might be wrong. Like maybe everyone who's posting on ArtStation is already working full time or freelance, and they are awesome. I might be wrong. I just don't have time to research that. I know, however, that an average job in art is not having an amazing pay, and I only know a handful of people that make a lot of money doing that, like a lot. So you can definitely make a good living being an artist. Definitely you can, but you have to like put a lot of sacrifices into it, and there's like different layers of a little bit of luck, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, you know. I'll tell you, I said this before already. What's not going to help you is posting stuff or giving away your work for free. That's never going to help you. That's just going to decrease your value dramatically. Never, ever work for free. Which makes me think that I maybe should do like a researched, like a concise video about that specifically, about the working for free topic. So I might do that soon. Anyways, let's wrap it up here. I got a lot of work to do today. I wish I could do more, but we're gonna have those AMAs every month. I'm planning for every last week of the month. Again, since I revived Art Cafe, revived from a hiatus, I'm trying to do it every week as much as possible. So technically every Monday, but sometimes the other day of the week, depending on the on who I'm getting on the podcast. But yeah, good times. Thanks guys for joining me live, whoever joined me live. And if you're listening to the show on other platforms, then thanks a lot for doing that as well. For those who are interested, obviously after we end this stream, this is going to be available on YouTube, so you can rewatch it. But if you go on artcafe.tv, I've listed pretty much every single channel you can listen to the podcast as well on the podcast forum. So that would be Spotify, SoundCloud, Google Play, Stitcher, and iTunes. I'll just need to upload this later tonight, so it should probably be available there by tomorrow. So, yep, that would do it. And let's wrap it up here. I'm going to get back to work. Thanks again for joining. If you want to support this, you know you can do it. Either by watching, if you want to step up a level, subscribing. If you want to step up a level, adding that little bell notification so you know when the stream is coming live or when the podcast is coming live. But obviously it's always going to be there, so if you missed it, you can watch it later. And if you want to step up even more and feel like, oh my God, Maciej, you're awesome, then you can always support the show on Patreon or buying my t-shirts. Anyways, thanks guys, and peace.